I just feel like I've been around the block, ripping up fantasy stock, working around the clock. Look at the view from the top. Researching rookies a lot? No, I just be listening to pods. Yeah, one in particular, I'm just a messenger. Let me just pass on the rock. Browning, brunning, pruning, pronouncing ain't what he's doing. What he's doing is not losing, but infusing you with new things. And there's Dennis the Bennett, yeah. The man is a menace, yeah. Building a dynasty, some of the finest things. Promise you won't regret it. Sly as a fox, cultured in pop. Give him his props. Here is a thought, here is a box, and you cannot compare them at all. So don't even try. Careful with the news, but when you use a take, I take up Tony Fire. I mean Dyer, because anyone else is a huge mistake. Whoa, fantasy round table, fantasy round table, yeah. Fantasy round table. Come take a look at the crown, baby. Hey, fantasy round table, fantasy round table, woo. Fantasy round table. Come take a look at the crown, baby. Go.
What is going on, everybody? We are one game away from wrapping up week 10. It is crazy to think that we are about to be moving into week 11, just a couple weeks away from fantasy playoffs. If you're lucky enough to get there, we've got a bunch of games and a bunch of interesting storylines to talk about today before the last game, Bears-Vikings, which actually could end up being a fairly good one. Matt, how you doing today?
Well, doing better than the Broncos. They got pounded. Probably doing better than Drew Brees' ribs.
And lung. Yeah, I saw
and
that.
That was a little brutal. But it's actually been pretty nice day today. Our weather guy refused to give it a 10 because it's a Monday, but gave it a 9.5. And I think it lived up to that. I'm looking forward to tonight. It seems like every time we think a primetime game is going to be good, it takes a dump on us, and every time I'm suspect, it ends up being good. So I was a little suspect yesterday.
We can only hope, because I need Allen Robinson. I love A-Rob. I need him to shit the bed tonight badly. I need a win. I need a win badly, and I need him to come. You know what? I take that back. Give 5 points. I'm cool with that.
Do you think? How quickly do you think Ryan pays charter to plane to Miami to go get Jordan Howard today?
You know, it'll be interesting to see. I don't know if they bring him back or not. With Montgomery coming back, they've got. I don't know if that's a good thing, anyways.
So like Montgomery's been the second coming of CMC.
Well, no, I know that, but I'm saying like I don't think getting Jordan Howard's going to help their team any, because Matt Nagy's still going to only run the ball 5 times the entire game, and Jordan Howard's probably going to get 6 carries for 8 yards instead of 6 carries for 7 yards.
You know what the real bummer is tonight is he finally gave up play calling duties to Bill Lazor, but we won't actually see if they're going to commit to running the ball more because they actually have no running back tonight. So it's an ironic situation all the way around.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Speaking of running backs, David Johnson was out in the loss to the Browns with the Texans. Browns won this one 10-7, a crazy shootout. What an amazing game that was to watch, I'm telling you. For Houston's side, Watson 14 points, Duke Johnson 5, Will Fuller 8, and Brandon Cooks 9. David Johnson, as I mentioned, was on the IR. Duke mustered just 54 yards rushing, no passing work. It was a tough matchup, as I mentioned on Friday, with it being the Browns, as they showed, if you guys watched the game, they're rated as the 11th best defense against the run right now. Should we worry about him as a play with David Johnson out? ZWar34, I see your question. We are not here to talk politics. We're here to talk fantasy football. You are more than welcome to hit us up on Twitter and DMs, and I will answer that question, but I'm not here to talk politics right now. I apologize if that upsets you. Matt, thoughts on Duke Johnson with David Johnson out?
Well, so, if you follow the show channel on Twitter, one of the questions we had before yesterday's games was 100 or more total yards for Duke Johnson, because it seemed like with a crappy weather game, which is really kind of why the scores were compressed, you couldn't see Watson airing it out, which actually probably helped the Browns defense, because not the strength of the Browns defense this year has not been the secondary, probably helped having those wins. I think almost everyone that responded thought that Duke Johnson was going to get somewhere in the neighborhood of 100 total yards. Only 14 touches, 54 rushing yards. Not great, not terrible. No passing game work. It is a tough matchup, but I do have some concerns. I think there was a lot of people that wanted to believe going into that game you could roll him out and get low-end RB2 numbers, which is kind of what we were getting from David Johnson. That may not be the case.
Yeah. Yes, you are right. I'm sorry. This is American football, not football. You would be correct on that. I'm not as worried about Duke Johnson. I mentioned before, obviously being a big fan of his when he was with Cleveland. It was a bad game. That offense could not get anything going in general. It was just a bad game overall. I watched every snap of that. Just a very, very bad game.
Hey, at least your team won.
That is true.
I watched every snap and lost by 25.
I will take the win. It was very nerve-wracking for a while, especially when it was like 3-0 throughout almost the entire game. But I just think it was a bad game overall. I'm not too worried about Duke. He's going to keep getting the ball with David Johnson on IR. They got put on IR last week, so he's got to miss at least 2 more games because he's only missed the one with Cleveland here. So the one thing I will say is the passing work, I don't expect it to come. We've talked about this in the offseason. Deshaun Watson does not check the ball down. So we even saw with David Johnson out there, he was only getting maybe a couple of games. So you're going to have to rely on him rushing the ball. And I'm going to be honest, that's probably what you're looking at is anywhere from 50 to 70 yards a game. He's not an overall talented runner. I would say in between the tackles. He's a guy you need to get out in space. And that offensive line, in my opinion, is not good enough to clear holes for him to hit that space to make big plays. So you're looking at, for me, a low-end flex, in my opinion, for Duke Johnson the next couple weeks.
Isn't it ironic that the Texans managed to bring in 2 running backs whose last name is Johnson, who, to maximize their value, are specialized in being effective pass catchers that they have no intention of using in that way?
Yeah, well, that goes to, their old general manager and coach, Bill O'Brien, doing a lot of dumb things to screw over this franchise, which, I don't know if you heard the news on this, not that it's fantasy relevant, but a lot of the talk is they're going to keep Romeo Crennel on as head coach next season because they don't think with the way everything's going right now, there's no guarantee that COVID will clear up and they won't be able to do in-person interviews, and they just don't feel they can get a true understanding of what a person is if they don't do in-person interviews. So yeah, Romeo, which look, I love Romeo Crennel. I thought he was, for the most part, an okay head coach with Cleveland. He's a great defensive coach. He's not.
But what are they even going to do? Their only wins this year are against Jacksonville. They don't have the most talented roster and they have no picks. And now you're talking about Romeo Crennel might be a fine coach. He's not an incredibly creative or dynamic coach, which seems to be kind of what you need if you're trying to get over the hump. Texans fans, just the warm embrace of the show.
Well, he could bring in some exciting offensive coordinator. We don't know. There's a lot of college guys that are talking about wanting to go to the NFL level now. He could bring somebody in. I don't know what the biggest thing I think is, and I can't remember who that person is. They were talking about keeping on the interim GM, whoever it is right now as well, because they don't want to just. So, I don't know. It's kind of hard to say because I would say regardless
the interim GM probably doesn't have a lot of moves he can possibly
exactly.
Make. It's not like they had assets or
exactly.
The only thing they could really do would be to decide they were going to start over and try to move Watson. At this point in time, that's probably their only. I like J.J. Watt, but he's probably a little bit past his prime. And since he's already given comments that indicate he wants to be no part of a rebuild, I don't know that that's the easiest guy to move either, because it's not like you have a lot of trade leverage. There are not a lot of easy options to fix this for Houston.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say is that, regardless of if they keep Romeo Crennel there and the interim GM, outside of massive hits on your 3rd and 4th round picks because Bill O'Brien traded away a bunch of their 1st and 2nds, it's going to be hard to say that these guys are doing or not doing a good job because they just don't have much to build around on the team right now, and they don't have much draft capital either for the next 2 drafts. So Houston's kind of going to be in a bad spot for a couple years. On Cleveland side, Baker just 5 points in this one. Chubb 18, Hunt 16, Landry 5, and Hooper 2. Chubb was back and looked amazing. Not only did he look amazing, but we saw Kareem Hunt all of a sudden look a whole lot better as well. Is having Chubb there the key to this Browns offense making a playoff run?
I think it is. There was a graphic that they flashed. I think it was on Sunday Night Football. They're 4-1 with Nick Chubb and only 2-2 without him. And when you look at the yards and the points per game and everything, it's a massive difference. He is a difference maker. And I think part of the reason that Hunt ends up looking better is you have Chubb just pounding it and pounding it and pounding it. And then they bring in a guy who's fresh and talented, who doesn't have to carry the whole thing by himself. Their offense has looked its best this season when those two guys are both humming along.
Yeah, I am with you. Obviously, Chubb had, as we were talking about off podcast,
could have had a huge game.
could have really helped me possibly not have to sweat out this game tonight. But I understand it. It's funny. As upset as I was kind of about that play, I understood it because many people may not remember this. And granted, this is new Cleveland Browns. This is not your dad's Cleveland Browns, is the way I worded it on Twitter to somebody. But it was, I want to say 4 years ago, the Browns were up 14 points with a minute on the clock against the Chicago Bears and lost that game. So Chubb did the right thing for the team, stepped out on the one. No way the Texans could get the ball back. Now, again, I would say it was highly unlikely they came back and win that game. There was 40-something seconds on the clock when he stepped out of bounds. So if he scores, the chances of them scoring, they would have to score on like 2 plays at the worst, and then possibly, thank you, buddy, and then get the onside kick and score on the next play. Then again, we saw Kyler Murray drive down the field in 30 seconds and score a touchdown. So you never know. It could have happened, but I'm glad. In all honesty, glad Chubb stepped out of bounds because I wanted the Browns to take the win. Sucks because, as we'll get to here in a little bit, the Raiders won, Dolphins won. So Tennessee won on Thursday. So this playoff race is really tight. And as I mentioned when it happened, that bad loss to the Raiders might really come back and haunt them here toward the end of the year because that's
pretty good.
They have looked good, and that's a game like
Miami.
They should have won. Yeah, they should have won. And see, the Browns don't get a chance to play Miami. Now they have the win on the Colts, which is good. And Baltimore, well, we'll see. But
so that's
for a more interesting talk later in the week.
Better chance with the Ravens dropping out. That was what I was thinking.
Yeah, I didn't even know if they lost. I'm gonna be honest. I went to bed early last night, but I saw that this morning. But same thing. That means I would almost say the Browns have to pretty much win out and then obviously beat Baltimore that next time they play each other, which is not going to be easy. Although I don't think let me look. Before I make this statement, let me look at the 6-3 teams here in the AFC really quick. Okay, yes, I do feel comfortable saying no because I do not think Indy is very good either. Damn it. I was going to say, in my opinion, Baltimore is the worst 6-3 team in the AFC. They just do not look like a good team, in my opinion. But, man, neither does Indy. And I'm going to be honest, neither does Tennessee here lately either. So I guess I can't say that they are the worst. Yeah. Lions Washington here ended up being a good game. The Lions won 32-27. Alex Smith, 16 points. Antonio Gibson, 22. J.D. McKissick, 17. Terry McLaurin, 17. And Logan Thomas, 10. What were your thoughts on Alex Smith being back, going for over 300 passing yards? Kind of looked like the old Alex Smith. It was good to see him back and slinging the ball the way that he was yesterday.
Yeah, it looks like, I think he went for 390 yesterday. It's pretty good. It's his first. They said it was his first start, I think, in 28 months, which are really – it's good to see him back out there. It's kind of exciting for him to see him back out there. I thought he looked pretty good when he came in relief, just maybe a little tentative, a little rusty. I thought he looked better yesterday. And with him in there, they're really maximizing their weapons with Gibson, McKissick, and McLaurin. I think all three of those are really comfortable, good starts every week right now.
Yeah, and what I found even more interesting, trying to figure out why they haven't been doing this all season, especially when you had Dwayne Haskins at quarterback. Why weren't you doing this, using Terry McLaurin in the running game like they did yesterday, which was effective as well? Why weren't you using J.D. McKissick as a check down back? Why were you throwing out Peyton fucking Barber instead of Antonio Gibson and J.D. McKissick? That's what's frustrating for me, being a guy who believed in Dwayne Haskins, is it seems like now all of a sudden they want to do all this innovative stuff with the offense that they did not want to do with Dwayne Haskins. But I'm happy for
well, and as shitty as the season has been, we'll get to it when we get to Giants Eagles. The NFC East, anyone of those teams could still win. I mean,
Yep.
it's ridiculous.
Yep.
I'm now of the opinion we may have a 5 or 6 win team.
Oh, yeah. I think I'm going to be honest with you, and I hate saying this because I did pick the Eagles to win. I'm done with the Eagles. I hope it's the Giants or Washington because regardless of whatever team wins, they're getting bounced in the first round anyways at this point. So I would rather see a Alex Smith-led Washington football team make the playoffs than Carson Wentz and these Eagles. I'm done. I don't even like the Eagles to begin with. I'm done. This is so frustrating watching them play. So, yeah, I would love to see Washington make it, and they've got a shot. I mean, it sucks obviously losing yesterday to the Lions. If they ended up pulling that one out, which was it, Matt Prater kicked like a 61-yard field goal to end up winning that one anyways. 59, yeah. So I mean, it was a ridiculous win for the Lions. They're much one that they needed as well. With Stafford going for 23 points, finally we see them lean on Deandre Swift, and we finally see that kid is, he's been good, like all of us have been telling you. He gets 25 points, great hurdles in that game. I mean, all in all, great game by Swift there. Marvin Jones, 23 points. Marvin Hall, 14 points. And TJ Hawkinson, kind of the guy left holding the bag here with just 3 points with everybody else going off. Swift was finally named the starter, and he obviously thrived. Do you think this is the start of a big second half, or I guess I should say playoff push for us fantasy teams, because we're really kind of past the midway point, so you're getting him for that hopeful big playoff run here?
Well, it could be a playoff push for the Lions, for that matter. You know, depending on how tonight's game goes, if the Vikings win, you have really a tight pack of teams behind the Packers that all have 5 losses. You're seeing a lot of tight packs in a lot of these divisions, which is going to make this last 7 weeks of the season, I think, a real blast, especially with how many, with adding another playoff team and stuff. But Detroit, they're a frustrating team because sometimes they look really good and really competent and the offense looks like it's moving, and then the next week you just don't know what the plan is. It was encouraging. They said they were making Swift the starter, and they actually committed to him, giving him a lion's share of the carries, getting him involved in the passing game. He had 149 total yards and touchdown. I thought he looked really good. It was a really exciting battle between him and Gibson. That was one of the poll questions we put up on our feed yesterday, which rookie was going to be better. I think Gibson ends up with a slight fantasy point edge, but the Lions come back and win. Both those guys were able to show out and are looking good with their teams. I thought Stafford looked better. I hope it's the start of a run of them figuring out what they need to be successful. The times that they've let Swift do his thing, they've looked better on the field and they've gotten better results.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it's fair to say with Detroit, they've really been in every single game. It's just been kind of letting leads slip away or just kind of not finishing out a game like they did yesterday. I mean, they could have a much better record. As for the rookies, I think Swift looked better. I watched a lot of that game, just the way he was running. I mean, Gibson, nothing against Gibson, but I mean, Swift was my number 1 running back coming out. And this is exactly why I saw everybody talking about it on Twitter, and I'm going to boast for us here a little bit. And if Dennis were here, I'd boast for Dennis as well. We were 3 people who were saying, don't take landing spot that big of a deal, because all those people who boosted CEH up above everybody else because he landed with the Chiefs. And what were we saying? Now, Swift was still my one. I don't remember who your one was. I think DeAndre, it was either Dobbins or Taylor was
my one.
And I'm pretty sure Taylor was Dennis's one as well, which still, I'm not throwing in the towel, Taylor. It's just not going to work this year, but he's still a great back moving forward. But that's the thing. Everybody was so on that hype train for CEH because he landed with the Chiefs, and landing spot is not the end-all, be-all. Talent is the end-all, be-all, and that's why Swift was my number 1. I'm excited to see what he can do the rest of the season because it was definitely fun seeing him get all the carries yesterday. What are we on? Jacksonville and the Packers, a much closer game than I expected it to be. The Packers pulled off the victory here, 24-20. For the Jags, Jake Luton, 8 points in this one. It was Dobbins for Dennis. Okay, cool, Dennis. And again, I think Dobbins is going to be, he looked somewhat good last night. And once Mark Ingram is out of there, who cost him the game last night, I think Dobbins is going to be a smash top 12 RB next year. But anyways, Robinson, 13 points. Fucking Keelan Cole, 21 points, and DJ Chark.
Part of that was on the punt return.
I know, but still, can he just go away, man? Like I need Chark. Chark, and it keeps going to Keelan Cole. It's so frustrating. Jake Luton struggled in week 2 here. What do we expect going forward with him? I honestly don't think they go back to Minshew. So I think it's Luton, Luton, whatever, moving forward.
I don't know, though. It feels like it could be a Minshew Foles kind of situation from last year, too. Luton looked good. Luton, however, the big L.
We're just going to go with Luton or Luton, whatever.
I'm going to go with the big L.
Big
L came out and looked decent in racking up an L last week. He didn't look that great this week. It reminds me a little bit of when you saw Minshew come on. He kind of exploded. Then he had some down games. If the big L struggles continue and Minshew's back healthy, I mean, it could take Minshew a while to come back healthy. I don't think you break bones in your throwing hand and are just, right back at it in a week or two. So I think they'll give him a few weeks. I don't think, despite what Doug Marone keeps saying, I don't think they're trying to win. And if they are, they don't have enough to win because they're still sitting on the one win that they got opening day. It's been a long stretch for Jaguar fans.
Wow.
It's possible they flip back again. I think it's still going to be frustrating owning Shark either way.
It is. Yes, it's going to be very frustrating. If I'm a Jags fan, I'm excited. Keep losing, baby. Lock up Justin Fields. You're going to be just fine once that happens because I'm pretty sure Trevor Lawrence is going to go to the Jets. So
I'm pretty sure Trevor Lawrence is going to stay in school if the Jets keep on their track.
That would be so bad either. Mac Jones, Trey Lance. I'm fine with either one of those as well. I mean, obviously, if I am a Jaguars fan, I will become a Jaguars fan if Justin Fields ends up in Jacksonville. Because I own Chark in a lot of places too. So it'll be nice to see that connection because Chark's going to be a top 12 wide receiver moving forward if that happens. But it's, at this point, I think much like Jets fans, I just think you don't want to win at this point. You want to be bottom, just get your quarterback of the future and move forward, kind of start your rebuild. On the Packers side here, Rodgers 24 points, Aaron Jones 14, Devontae Adams 18, MVS 24, and Bobby Tonyan 6. Solid day for Green Bay. We saw the huge play from MVS. Adams had a touchdown called back in this one as well on a bullshit holding call. That's another thing that kind of.
And he got a touchdown at least.
Oh, his touchdown was so good though. Did you see his touchdown, kid?
No.
Did you see it? Oh my god, dude!
No, I was watching Carolina and Tampa Bay because I kept hoping Carolina was going to beat Tampa Bay. And then Ronald Jones ran for 92 yards, and I stopped feeling anything at all.
It was, I'm trying to think of how to explain. I think they were like maybe 7-8 yards out from the end zone. He made like a slow play, like he was going to cut inside and then just like one step burst outside. Aaron Rodgers threw it high. So he went up in high point and that dude undercut him in the air, landed on his elbow, which I think would like shatter my arm. I'd be done. Landed on his elbow, nothing. He hits, just gets up like nothing. Touchdown. It's just like, oh my God, I love Devontae Adams. He's an absolute beast. I hope that he re-signs with Green Bay next year.
Here, our morning option was Buccaneers, Panthers, or watching golf. So it was a little bit of a tough day because, of course, here you get the Broncos game no matter what. So there was no CBS morning game. I'm about ready to forego the Bronco games, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, we can save that for maybe Thursday, little playoff talk and futures for some of these franchises because it's definitely looking grim at the moment. Giants beat the Eagles, which I don't think we were expecting. I'm pretty sure everybody in our pick'em picked the Eagles to win that one, as I was mentioning my frustration with the Eagles just a minute ago. Wentz 8 points, Sanders 13, Boston Scott 14, Greg Ward 8, Rager 8, Rodgers 10, Goddard 7. Tough day for the Eagles. What do you think it means going forward? They did just say earlier today Zach Ertz is being activated off the IR. He should be back soon now. So,
oh, cool. Now all the 5 receivers will have 7 points a game instead of 8.
Exactly.
And, of course, the one huge play is a huge running play, and it's Boston Scott and not Miles Sanders. So a little bit frustrating. The Eagles looked like they were getting it together before they went on the bye, and they were getting healthier. Yesterday, arguably, it was one of the healthiest they've been since the beginning of the season. I know Dennis was excited that Alshon Jeffrey was going to finally play. He didn't do anything. Travis Fulgham, who had looked really good at times, didn't do anything. everybody was just okay. Such an ugly game. They were never really in it. They were down big early. When they tried to come back, they got slammed. The Eagles are not a very good team. No one in that division is a very good team. It's still wide open. It looks like Andy Dalton's tracking to come back and play, and the Cowboys have the Vikings, who don't have a very good defense. They could get to 3 wins this week. It's incredible. I mean, I don't know. The NFC East, anytime you think you figured it out, it's like trying to decide which Rams player is going to be good in a week. You're going to pick the wrong one.
Yeah. I don't. As I said earlier, I'm done. I'm done with the Eagles. It sucks because I love Rager so much, but I'm absolutely done with the Eagles. I don't want anything to do with them anymore. I'm sitting on my guys. They just look horrible. The fact that you can't beat the Giants of all teams, which I guess maybe I shouldn't say that because I've been, talking about the Giants defense being better than everybody gives them credit for like the past few weeks. So maybe that has something to do with it, but it's overall frustrating. The whole NFC East is overall very frustrating right now. Daniel Jones, 22 points. Wayne Gallman, 19. Darius Slayton, 14 points. Shepard, 10, and Evan Ingram 3. I mean, the Giants offense, we talked about it when Barkley went down. We thought that the running game was kind of the biggest thing holding us back. Wayne Gallman has actually, I feel like, made this offense actually viable. We got Slate now making plays, Shepard making plays. Wayne Gallman's averaging like 13 points a game the past couple of weeks. Like, are we buying into the Giants offense? Can they make a run here in the NFC East?
I mean, they seem to have gotten better the last couple of weeks. They've won all 3 of their wins are in the division. So the real question is, you would think the winner of this division is going to have to make hay in the division, which is probably the big thing holding Washington back, because I think they've lost almost all their division games. But now the Eagles have lost to Washington and to the Giants in the division, which is one of the things that might be holding them back. The Giants, they have looked like they've gotten better. Maybe it's just taken a little while for Joe Judge to get it going, to get a better culture. Daniel Jones has looked like he's been protecting the ball a little bit better the last couple of weeks, which is encouraging, going in the right direction. And they do seem to have found something with Wayne Gallman. I think they finally put Devonta Freeman on IR, so it's not even a threat for the next couple of weeks. Maybe they don't bring him back. Maybe that was a mistake trying to fill in. We've seen Gallman be decent filling in for Saquon Barkley at times before. It looked like Evan Ingram's playing a little bit better. Shepard's been in there. Yesterday it was encouraging to me, at least, that you saw them get Slayton involved again after he seemingly disappeared. They have pieces that in a division like this, they should be able to compete. I wonder if they think about getting something on defense. I know the corner that they cut because he was pending charges just got cleared, Baker. Is it a thought to try to bring, or are they happy with what they've got? Yesterday, I expected them to kind of get blasted out by the Eagles and the Eagles to start establishing themselves as a favorite, and the opposite happened. The Giants are on bye this week. They're 3-7. It's weird to say, but they might be the best team in their division right now at 3-7.
Yeah, and I guess props to Dennis, too, because he talked about on Friday that he was still in on Slayton. I think both of us were kind of out on him, as we've talked about, and he came back, had a good game. I mean, he was I hope it keeps going. I have Slayton in a lot of places, and I've kind of unfortunately moved him to my bench because this is the first. I mean, he was okay last week, too. I think he got hurt early. He got hurt in this game, too, and then came back out there and still had a really good game. So, yeah, I'm with you. I mean, it sucks as a Barkley owner in one of my main leagues. I did not think I actually picked Gallman up when everybody rushed to the waiver wire to get Freeman, and then I dropped him because I didn't think anything was going to happen with him. And then someone else picked him up, and now I'm just like, man, that's so frustrating. But I'm happy for Gallman at least. I mean, he's getting it done, and he's making the Giants at least. I think that's a big part of why the Giants have looked as good as they are. Have.
And Daniel Jones has really looked good too. I started him in the league.
He's the best running back.
that I was not trying to win and ended up winning because I got 30 points from my quarterback.
Yep. Yeah, I could have had even more had that second touchdown not got called back either. So for the Buccaneers, Buccaneers Panthers. Bucks win this one 46-23. Brady 31 points. Ronald Jones 24 points. Mike Evans 19. Chris Godwin 15. Antonio Brown 13. Gronk 13, and of course Cameron Brate 12. Is this a template for what we expect for the Buccaneers moving forward? If so, which of the three receivers finishes the best the rest of the season?
Kills me to say, but I think the one that's going to end up finishing the best is Mike Evans because he's getting those jump ball touchdowns. I was encouraged. We wondered how it's going to work. There were a couple of things I found encouraging. First, Ronald Jones' first touch of the game fumbles. I thought for sure
everybody did. Everybody was posting his obituary on Twitter after that happened.
They went right back to him the next series. They kept going, and Fournette was the guy that they didn't really seem to have much interest in using, which I thought was interesting. Then their first touchdown down there, of course, goes to Cameron Brate. And you're like, okay, well, this is of course what's going to happen. But then they get in the flow. They found a way to get AB involved. He had a decent set of catches and yardage. Godwin, decent set of catches and yardage. Same for Evans. I think the difference between those three to me right now is Evans because of his frame. Evans and Gronk are the guys that Brady's putting the ball up to in the end zone. We saw both of them achieve scores that way. And that, I think, is what ultimately is going to be the separation right there.
Yeah, I mean, I hope. I'm going to be honest. I'm not taking too much away from this game because, as we know, the Panthers' defense against the pass is horrible, actually, like the worst in the NFL. So I think I talked about it Friday. I expected Brady to come out and throw for 5 touchdowns. He ended up being the best fantasy player on the week right now with the 31 points. Great to see Ronald Jones break off the 98-yard touchdown run. I was happy for my guy there. I was proud of him. Wish I wouldn't have traded him away at this point in the one league I had him, but it is what it is. But yeah, I'm with you. I don't know if I'm going to go. I guess I will. Damn, this is so hard. I probably would side with you and go Evans because I feel like Godwin and Brown are going to be the two that kind of eat into each other's catches more than they do Evans. And while they're definitely using Gronk down there as well, they're also using Gronk on long touchdown passes as well. Brady just missed him on one. I think it was like 40, 50-yard touchdown pass as well there.
And they got one big 50-yard play to him too because he only caught 2, but it was for like 53 yards in the touchdown. So
I'm probably leaning with you and going Evans there, which hurts my heart to say because I've never been a big Evans guy. Carolina side, Bridgewater 19 points, Davis 8, TJ Moore, of course. Of course, DJ Moore, after we all poo-pooed him on Friday. He's the one that has the big game here with 19 points. Robbie Anderson, 6. Curtis Samuel, 4. Bridgewater gets hurt, but appears to be okay going forward. He's trending to playing this week. CMC, news came out today, is likely going to miss again this week after they came out, I believe it was Friday or Saturday, saying he'll be good to go for week 11. That has now already changed. Morris shines at the receiver whack-a-mole here in Carolina. Who finishes better rest of season for you, Moore, Anderson, or Samuel?
It's so frustrating.
Oh, I know.
I don't know if it's recency bias, but I'm actually leaning back towards DJ Moore.
I mean, he's the most talented. He's the most talented on that group.
Yeah, and I mean, Robbie Anderson seems steady in his role, but I don't think he's getting the touchdowns. We haven't seen him get the touchdowns so far. So he probably is the most steady, targets, yardage. But it's whether, who do you think is going to have the more explosive plays, Moore or Samuel? It looked like they were in a huge groove with Samuel, and then he was the forgotten man completely yesterday, and they only had eyes for Moore. It didn't make sense, I think, to any of us that Moore was kind of the odd man out. I think yesterday he looked a little better, so I'm going with him, but it's there's a lot of teams, man, that are going to be really frustrating going down the stretch. And the brutal thing with Carolina too, they have that week 13 bye. So you've only got, so for CMC owners, you got them for 2 games. You got one more game. We know already they've ruled him out for week 11.
Yeah.
You might get him for week 12 and then nothing for 13. So he could end up being like a playoff winner if you got there, but that's got to be a brutal lost season. You know, we were talking about, I actually sat Mike Evans and Chris Godwin in different leagues so I could play Michael Thomas. I have some regrets.
It's been such a weird year, though. That is something else we can talk about later, maybe in the off season when we do the 3 of us, you, me, and Dennis, do our off season shows, because it has been. I mean, it's going to be really interesting to see. With the way so many top guys have disappointed this year, you can almost guarantee all these guys are falling in the draft next year, because all those people are going to have that immediate "I hate you" kind of like hate in their hearts for the seasons that they cost them. Like, you're going to see Zeke, CMC, Michael Thomas, Saquon Barkley. You're going to see all these guys start falling. You're going to see like Devontae Adams, Hopkins. Dalvin Cook might be 1-1 next year. Like, it's going to be.
It's almost a year where you gotta throw out. You know, we've talked about using sound logic and reasoning for these. So I was in a league where I need to win if I really want to be in the playoffs. I have 4 receivers for 3 spots: Michael Thomas, AJ Brown, Tyler Boyd, Chris Godwin. It pained me to do it, but I put Godwin to the bench, and he ended up being the only one that would have been worth starting out of that group. And it's just, you know, following trends and what should happen and what it's burning you.
Oh yeah. I think I've gotten, for me specifically, just on this, and then we'll move on to the next game, is I've just gone with who's been consistent and who I think is just going to give me points every single week. Like, I'm done trying to, like, I've almost, I think people say this. I know I've heard baseball people say this when they talk about stuff with stats, because baseball is so stats driven, everything. Take the name off the back of the jersey and go with the production. You know, I sat Michael Thomas in a league that I actually traded for him. I gave up DJ Chark in a first to get Michael Thomas when I thought I was buying low on him. And then even yesterday, I was like, you know what? Justin Jefferson and T. Higgins have been more productive. I'm just going with them right now. I need, same as you, I need a win. I sat Michael Thomas. I mean, unless Justin Jefferson goes out there and bombs tonight, it's going to be the right call. I need him to get 5 points and I win. So it's one of those things where this year you kind of have to forget that you drafted Michael Thomas in the first round, that he's been an absolute like best wide receiver in the league the past couple of years. Just like, you know what? For whatever reason, whatever it is going on in New Orleans or what's going on with him, he's just not been it this year. And bench him and hope for the best. You know, maybe for me, it's one of those prove it for me things. Like, I need to see him go out there and have that game before I'm like, you know what? I'm willing to put you back into my lineup. Battle of the rookies here in Los Angeles did not go the way that I hoped it would.
In Miami.
Was it Miami? I'm sorry. In Miami. Dolphins pull out the win here, 29-21. On the Chargers side, Herbert, 20 points. I would say his worst game so far this year, and he still gets you 20 points. That's
and 3 touchdowns.
Pretty exciting. Yeah, still, he's an absolute beast. I mean, I don't even know if I can call him Kalen Garbage anymore, but I'm still going to do it for at least one more week. Kalen Garbage gets you 15 points. Keenan Allen, 12. Hunter Henry, 13. Austin Eckler posted that he's coming back soon, but we haven't heard anything from the team. They have not designated him to return yet. So with Jackson now going on IR as well, is Kalen Garbage the play at running back for the Chargers?
Yeah, and I heard an analyst actually said they don't expect Eckler back before week 13, which would mean a couple more weeks. I don't know. You know, we talked about it at length on Friday, so I won't spend a lot of time. But for whatever reason, Joshua Kelly has fallen out of rotation, out of favor. Balaj has looked good and has made the most of his opportunities. I know Anthony Lynn had challenged everyone a few weeks ago in the running back room. You have to be productive when we give you the ball. If you're not, we're going to find somebody who is. And I think that's what has hurt Kelly a little bit, and that's what has lifted guys like Balaj and Troymaine Pope. You know, a couple of guys noted on Twitter yesterday they were running the offense through Kalen Balaj yesterday. So he definitely is the one that I want. And I'm with you. Eckler is the only one who has said anything about Eckler's status, which I find a little bit odd. I don't know if since they figure that they're out of the playoffs that they're not in a hurry to put him back. But Balaj has looked good. Offense hasn't been the Chargers' problem this year.
Yeah, it's gonna be man, I hate to say this. I was never really a big fan of his anyways, but is this possibly just another example of a player being Adam Gase? I mean, I know he went to, I believe, the Jets too, and he really didn't do anything there, but he has not looked like the same guy we saw in Miami. That's for damn sure. So I'm with you. I think at this point, we know that Anthony Lynn likes to run the ball. For whatever reason, Joshua Kelly is not getting that work. Balaj can catch the ball as well. We've seen that this defense is just going to continue to give up points as well. But Herbert has been good enough to keep this offense in games. They're not going to get blown out, which means that they're going to continue to run the ball as well. So I'm with you. If you can get Balaj at this point, he might end up being a league winner if he can continue to get you 12 to 18 points a week. I mean, for a guy you're getting off your waiver wire here in week 10, it's not a bad spot, which actually leads me to two guys. There's another guy, same guy actually got in this game right here in Salvon Ahmed that I think could be doing the same thing because he actually, I wish I could remember the stat now. I saw it on Twitter. He got, I think it was 84% of the carries yesterday for the Dolphins team, where Myles Gaskin, who's a guy we were all very liked a lot for what he was doing in Miami, the most he ever got in a game for Miami as a lead back was 74%. So Ahmed was doing a lot yesterday and has the past 2 weeks.
Wow.
For Miami, 2 of 14 points. Ahmed 16, Jakeem Grant 14, Devontae Parker 5, Mike Gesicki 6, and of course, I don't even remember his last name. Is it Darren Smythe, right?
It's Durham Smythe.
Durham Smythe. 8 points. Gaskin is out for at least one more week. Breida, I don't think is coming back. Howard did not play and then was cut earlier today. Is Salvon Ahmed the best play at running back and a good waiver wire target for you?
Yep. And probably a guy that's still floating around out there because it looked for most of this last week like Breida was tracking to play. He was back to practice, so him missing with injury. I'm with you. I don't know if he comes back. That feels like a burned, wasted trade. He had no role early in the season, but Ahmed looked good and fit the role in there. That's definitely a guy I'm targeting and scooping up.
Yeah, I'm with you. I know Dennis pointed it out on Twitter, and you guys can go back and listen to our combine shows. He was a guy that I really liked coming out of Washington. A lot of people kind of jumped off him after his bad combine. He ran at a lot slower time than I expected him to, but he was a guy that I was kind of surprised didn't get drafted. Ended up with the 49ers this offseason before they decided to stick with Jermichael Hasty over him, and now he's with Miami. I'm grabbing him. I think he's played good enough that he could even have a role with Gaskin coming back. I could see him being more of Gaskin is a much better receiver than Ahmed is, so maybe they do a where he's running the ball and Gaskin's doing a little bit more receiving work because I mean, at this point, why even bring Breida back? I mean, geez, that dude has done absolutely nothing. So I think you roll. I would almost bet you with as well as the team's been playing, Brian Flores is going to run with these two undrafted free agents he brought onto this team at Gaskin and Ahmed, which is ridiculous.
Which is interesting because they actually spent money trying to solve the running problem because it was a problem last year. But even Patrick Laird, they like better than, Jordan Howard. Had he not been cut today, you still would think he had no role because he was a healthy scratch when they really had no running backs yesterday.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's been a healthy scratch, I think, the last 3 weeks. And regardless, Gaskin was hurt last week, too, and they still didn't bring him back. So, yeah, it's insane. But, yeah, it's cool to see those two guys, especially being undrafted free agents, getting to thrive there. The next Phillip Lindsay's possibly because, hey, you can probably everybody.
Actually, maybe Brian Flores can just go get Phillip Lindsay because apparently Denver doesn't know what to do with him.
That is true. Well, what I was going to say might be interesting. I know everybody's been talking about it, saying that Miami will definitely draft a running back this year. Maybe they don't. I mean, you can probably get Ahmed and Gaskin for cheaper than what it's going to cost to draft a high-end running back at this point in this. Well, then again, they've got like 4 picks because they traded for whoever's and they got Houston's as well. So maybe they'll do it, but
I mean, I'm sure they'll take it if they think it's a value, but everybody that was projecting that Miami needed to go get this or go get that, they haven't, and they've they've made strides. They looked good at the end of last year. They've carried that over. Even a couple weeks ago when we questioned whether it was, are they just giving up on this season and focusing on next year? No, they aren't. He looks good.
Man, and I'm not going to lie. I was thinking about this the other day, and I feel bad. I completely missed out on talking about this on Friday's show with Miami Dolphins being 2-0. God damn it. I missed out on that. It was a perfect shot to do that, and I completely missed it. Because now they're 3-0 with Tua, and, you can't make the joke anymore. I didn't even realize it till yesterday. I was like, damn it, that was perfect. Now they're 3-0.
Through
it. Yeah, exactly. It doesn't just roll off the tongue all naturally. Let's see here. Raiders and your Broncos. The Raiders win this one 37-12. For Denver here, Locke 6 points, Gordon 4, Judy 10, Patrick 10, Hamilton 11, and Noah Fant 4. Do you think Locke is the answer at QB? I see your tag there of Drew Locke ? Which he apparently got hurt as well, right?
They said his ribs were hurting. He got a couple of hard shots and stuff. I don't know if that's his only problem. Does getting hit in the ribs make you constantly throw off your back foot to no one in particular? I didn't know that was a correlation, but maybe it's possible. I threw up a Twitter poll yesterday in my morose state. Also, if any of you guys listen to the Music City Drive-In movie podcast, I had quite a few exciting comments about the Broncos and about Dennis putting me in an awkward situation by picking the Broncos. Part of me was relieved that I didn't look like a bad fan, but part of me was horrified I actually had to watch that exhibition. I threw up a poll. What do you think is going to happen for Denver next year? Is it Drew Lock? Is it a rookie? Do they sign a veteran, or does John Elway unretire? Rookie right now is leading with 40%. All the others have 20%. I actually voted for Elway to unretire because at this point in time, I feel like that might be the only solution. But I was excited about Locke based on the small sample size we saw to end last year. 4-1. He wasn't incredible, but he looked decent at times for a guy that was kind of getting thrown in at the end of the year. I haven't seen it except for that fourth quarter against the Chargers this season. We just haven't seen anything like that. And yesterday was the most sorrowful exhibition, but the whole team was bad. They let both Jacobs and Booker run all over them. They couldn't make much of anything happen, but it's killing the value of all the players around them. A lot of the beat writers have complained about the play calling too. You see a quarterback who's obviously struggling, so let's definitely not let our running backs run the ball. Philip Lindsay didn't get positive yardage and his third and fourth carry until the fourth quarter. The whole thing looks bad. In this next 7 games, I think if we don't see a big step up from what it's looked like so far, I do think they've got to weigh their options. They came into this year saying, hey, we got you some linemen, we got you a better coach, we got you all these weapons. Granted, Cortland Sutton got injured, and that's a bummer, but he looks like he's regressed. He threw just horrific interceptions yesterday.
So I think I'm kind of with you, and I was the guy who's in Lock with you this offseason. What makes it interesting is they're sitting right now as, I believe, the 10th pick. Obviously, we still have a lot of games to go. They could end up changing that. I've talked about it with a couple other people who pay very close attention to this stuff. There's a lot of talk that 5, maybe even 6 quarterbacks go in this draft this year. I'm just going to say this now because I kind of feel like I know what John Elway likes and I know what John Elway looks for. I think Kyle Trask out of Florida is going to end up with the Broncos, whether that's in the first round or the second round. I kind of feel like that's the kind of quarterback Elway looks for. Trask is a guy that a lot of people think will go day 2. I wouldn't be surprised if he's sitting on the board there in the second round. Maybe the Broncos move up a couple picks or let him fall to him in the second round and then take him. I don't know if it'd be a bad pick either. I like Kyle Trask. I think he's got a lot of talent and upside. I think a lot of it is what you said, though, too. Some of it's coaching, because I don't think Locke is as bad as he's shown the past couple weeks. I think some of it's coaching, some of it's offensive line issues. When you have regardless of what you may think of Melvin Gordon, he can be a serviceable running back. They're not using him that much. Phillip Lindsay's looked better, as we've talked about. They're not using him at all either. You did lose Cortland Sutton. Noah Fant's been banged up. I think it's just an overall just not great team right now. I think they've got great pieces, but overall it's just not a great team at the moment. I mean, again, you lose your probably leader of your entire team and defensive leader and Von Miller at the beginning of the year as well.
Well, and right now they're missing all three of their opening day starting linemen. Shelby Harris on COVID IR, Purcell, Mike Purcell, who they liked, and then Jarrell Casey, who they traded for. I mean, there's been tons of injuries. I don't, that probably explains some of the defensive lapses, but at the end of the day, if they lost this game 37-30, okay, they're better than you. You have too many injuries, but it's Drew Lock usually only plays one quarter a game. Yesterday he played 0 quarters.
Yeah,
that were acceptable. It's the mistakes. It's the I like one of the local weather people here posted it. It said, "At Broncos, can you explain to me why Drew Lock throws every pass off his back foot?" And I was chuckling, but I was like, that is so true. And that's where a lot of these interceptions are coming from. He had bad body language out there too. Maybe he's hurt more than they said. They x-rayed. They said all he has is bruising, which I'm not. If somebody hit me in the sternum, I'd probably still be on the ground.
Yeah,
I would have asked for a trip to the hospital. I would have taken a COVID test. I don't know what I would have done. But I mean, these guys are professionals. I don't know that it's injury doesn't explain the habits. The same thing. If we're going to be hypercritical of Daniel Jones and his tendency to turn it over, I've been impressed the last couple of weeks. He seems to be taking that to heart and trying to protect the ball. Drew Lock feels like he's just getting a little more careless. And this was, one of the things that people were critical of Dwayne Haskins about too. Yep. Those three guys are going to be inextricably linked because of where they went. Kyler Murray is just on a different stratosphere. We're not, not compare that, but those three guys are guys people thought had promise, but had major questions and developmental questions. And all of them have gotten shots, and it just doesn't look good.
Yeah. On the Raiders side, Carr 7 points, Jacobs 29, Booker 21, Waller 6. So they did have the drop touchdown. Could have had a much bigger day for you. Has Booker become flex worthy for you? We talked about him last week. I don't remember. Dennis wasn't as big on him. I guess I should say none of us really were big on him Friday, but we talked about how he'd become more relevant, especially in that Browns game, as he moved to flex worthy for you moving forward.
Yeah, so I think the Raiders, in order to compete and try to thrive, they've gotten that offensive line back pieced together. Tom Cable has done a really nice job. They were really physical and really aggressive. And when you have kind of younger, uneven receiving core, being able to run and ground and pound, they reminded me a little bit of what's been successful for the Browns with a couple of running backs being able to change in and stay fresh. Jacobs looked good. Jacobs was running hard, and then they've been able to bring in Booker, and he's also looked good and been running hard, can catch passes. I think they found something that's worked for them the last couple of weeks, and they're going to stick with it.
Yeah, I'm with you. We've talked about it. I've mentioned it many a times because people just seem to think that Josh Jacobs is elite. And I'm not trying to say anything bad about him. He's a very good running back, but they just continue to bring in other running backs to take work away and do things from him, which to me means that he's not what we expect him to be in the fantasy community. I'll put it that way. Booker's continue to get work. We see Gruden wants him out there, so I am with you. If you're hurting that running back, he's a guy that I would grab. We mentioned Balaj and Ahmed earlier. Booker's another guy would go in attack, especially if you're suffering with injuries right now. Not going to be that guy who's going to get you 30 points a game, but if you can plug him in as your RB2, and I know he got you 21 yesterday, but if he can average you 10 to 15 points, great. I'll take it now at this point at week 10. Probably the most thrilling game yesterday, at least in my opinion. I don't know if you guys saw my tweet. I had all the games on that afternoon. Now I was all in on this one. I ended up making its way to the big TV yesterday. I ended up turning Madden off and putting this one on because I wanted to finish watching it. Cardinals win this one 32-30 against the Bills. Josh Allen, 27 points. Cole Beasley, 27 points. Stephon Diggs, 25. Huge game for the Bills. Is Josh Allen still an MVP candidate for you? We've seen Russell Wilson kind of slow down a little bit. Kyler Murray's had a couple of bad losses here. Josh Allen, while a couple of bad games, really kind of came on this week. What's going on, Claudio?
I think so. I think this down the stretch is really going to make a difference. You and I were talking about a little bit earlier. The great thing about this game between Murray and Allen was both of them were incredible, and both of them were incredible in the clutch moments. This was just a game that Kyler Murray won at the end and not one that Josh Allen lost. He didn't do anything to hurt his case. He actually, when his team was down at the end of the game, went down, led a good touchdown drive, had a pretty fantastic throw to Stephon Diggs. He's got his team in decent position. What might be scarier for Josh Allen is it's very possible that after the Dolphins play Denver in Week 11, that they find themselves tied atop the AFC East. So he's going to be in a dogfight. Russell Wilson, Kyler Murray are part of a three-way dogfight. Yeah. It's going to be pretty exciting down the stretch here. And then you have Mahomes just looking a little bit vintage Mahomes in what he's been doing. You know, other guys like Kamara doing things. It's going to be kind of fun. There's so many teams that are competitive and so many divisions that are competitive. We're going to, I think, see some great football down the stretch.
Yeah, I'm with you. I love Josh Allen. He's a guy that I think has been amazing this year. We talked about it with the trade for Diggs. I mentioned I thought it was going to be a great move for Diggs or for Allen this offseason because I think he plays well with what Allen does. I think he has been. I never took him out of the MVP discussion, even though he was playing bad, because I honestly didn't think Russ was going to continue being. I mean, Russ was on an other world earlier in this year, and we always expect those guys to come back. We've just seen Mahomes come back a little bit to earth. It's weird to say I don't think Mahomes is really in the MVP discussion. He deserves to be there with this play, but I kind of feel like it's not. I think it's, for me, everything I keep hearing is between those three and Russ. It really seems to be Murray now. Murray, Russ, and Allen kind of seem to be the three guys that are getting all the talk, and I think Mahomes should be there, but I don't know if maybe it's a. I hate to say this, there's only been 1 year, like a Jordan fatigue on it.
A lot of the broadcasters talk about Mahomes as being the front runner, and these guys all trying to catch him.
Oh, interesting.
They talked about that again last night on Sunday Night Football a little bit.
So before we get to Arizona's side and the Hail Murray there that won them the game, what are your thoughts on Aaron Jones? Are you concerned about a committee? I am not.
I'm not either.
I think it's just one of those things. We saw it last year with LaFleur as well. There's just sometimes in those games, they just tend to lean on Jamal Williams. Now, it does suck that Jamal Williams has actually played good this year because last year he wasn't playing good, which I think led them to be more toward Aaron Jones. But something we've talked about earlier this year is, you know, Aaron Jones was as good as he was last year, not just because of the way he was running catching ball, but because he had the 17 touchdowns. And we had to you had to expect that to kind of come back a little bit. I would also say I think maybe they're using Jamal as much, probably. I think still has a little bit to do with Aaron Jones not being fully healthy. They held him out for the 2 weeks. He didn't look great that first week back either. So I think moving forward, you'll be fine because the Packers are not like the number one seed in the NFC right now. So they're going to have to continue playing out, especially with the way the NFC is kind of grouped together. So I think Aaron Jones will continue to be the guy, but you'll unfortunately see these games where Jamal Williams gets more involved.
Well, and it could also not even be because he's not totally healthy right now, but in an effort to try to keep him healthy, did they just Robinson's active?
He's active.
Yeah, I saw him warming up. I put it on in the background so that I could give you updates. But I think, you know, they're just trying. They know that I think the Packers are in a situation that if they want to make a good run in the playoffs, they have to have a healthy Aaron Jones, a healthy Devontae Adams, and a healthy Aaron Rodgers. And they're probably looking at some of these games, like when they're playing the Jaguars, saying, if we can lean on an MVS and a Jamal Williams a little bit more here, we can save these guys for when we're going to really need them. And that sucks for us as fantasy owners, but that makes 100% sense when you're talking about a team where, you lose an Adams, you lose a Jones, it gets a little bit dicey a little bit quickly.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, I hate to say it this way, but I feel like you lose a Rodgers or an Adams, you're screwed. Aaron Jones, I feel like they can probably make that up a little bit. They don't want to lose him, but you lose Adams or Rodgers, you're done for. I'm sorry. I like MVS. I like Lazard. There ain't nobody out there balling like Adams is right now. Let's see here. On Arizona's side, as I mentioned, you had the Hail Murray there that wins them the game. Kyler Murray ends up with 29 points, Kenyon Drake 9, and DeAndre Hopkins 25 points. Crazy, right? I mean, you would think like he wasn't good anymore after Houston gave him away for a bag of chips, and he goes out there and does that.
I like the best tweet was somebody copying that and saying, "Does David Johnson make this catch?"
Yeah, that's even better. That's hilarious. What an incredible ending! It was an incredible ending. Was that play from Murray to Hopkins the best you've seen this season? We've seen a lot of really good catches this year, but is that the play of the season for you right now?
I think so because of the situation and everything, and he high pointed that ball in a crowd.
Oh, perfect.
It's not like
it's
not like Buffalo completely sucked on defense. And I know there was a lot of people saying, "Hey, why weren't they trying to knock it down?" He high pointed the ball. They didn't have a chance yet. They all went up, and he was the highest.
Yeah, he high pointed it, which is what Hopkins does. I mean, he talked. I don't know if anybody watched the video of him. That's what he talked about. He's like, that's what when he used to practice on dunking people. That's what he does. Like, look, guys. Let's be honest here. Number one, if you saw all of them standing together before Hopkins jumped over them, they were all like their heads were at his chest to begin with. None of those guys, I think, have the hops to jump with Hopkins, number one. And then he's already got 2 feet on those guys and he jumps. It was just a perfect play by Hopkins. I really don't like the fact that they keep saying he did it over 3 defenders. He did it over 2. The third defender came in at the last minute. And if I were the third defender, I would have tried to just knock the living shit out of Hopkins. But I think he was just trying to go for the ball as well. It was a great play by Hopkins. Again, just cements why he's one of the best. Defensive
backs now are a little more cautious because you get a big penalty and thrown out of the game if you try to make in the old days. I think one of those guys would have tried to make a body blow, but you can't even make body blows anymore. It's really changed the way those kind of plays can be played.
Yeah. All right, Rams, Seahawks. Rams win this one 23-16. Russell Wilson, 9 points. Alex Collins, 11 points. Tyler Lockett, 11. Metcalf, 4. Just in case anybody's wondering, DJ Dallas, 4 points as well because I started him. 4 points.
Yeah. Can we reflect on that? I mean, I posted that one, raise your hand if you start. I started Dallas too. I mean, he's looked great for 2 weeks replacing Chris Carson. What the actual F?
I guess in fairness, I don't know. I would assume you follow Mr. Garrett Price. I know I do. He did tweet out earlier that morning saying, "Don't play DJ Dallas." And I'll just put it this way. Garrett has some good inside information he gets from the Seahawks. We both know why. So probably should have listened to him. Unfortunately, I chose not to because I was like, no, because I agreed with you. I was like, DJ Dallas has been amazing. Why would you go away from him?
And the thing is, they said Alex Collins was going to have a big role last week and he didn't. So why am I afraid of the exact same situation?
I hear you. I hear it's going to end up costing me tonight because Allen Robinson's going to beat me on the first drive tonight. I can already feel it. Are you worried about Russell Wilson and the Seahawks, though? It kind of feels like we talked about this at the beginning of the year, right? Russell Wilson, it was off to always off to those slow starts and then turned it on at the end of the season. It almost feels like it's the reverse this year. Like we've seen Russell Wilson on fire at the beginning of the year, and now lately it's just kind of tailed off a little bit, and we're kind of seeing the old Seahawks coming back.
It's not really just that he's tailed off, it's that he's making uncharacteristic turnovers that you just don't really expect. They showcased one of those on Football Night in America yesterday where, he rolls out and he had wide open space to run, and he lofts the ball towards Disley that gets easily picked off in the end zone. Just things you you don't typically see from Russell Wilson. He's been usually very careful with the ball the last few weeks. It just looks like a different guy, and there's probably a lot of pressure on them because their defense hasn't exactly been stoic. Their defense wasn't awful yesterday, but their offense just didn't seem like they could get anything going, and it's been really weird. You'll see these epic games from either Metcalf or Lockett, and then they just disappear. I think it was our friends at what's our DFS site. I just blanked on their name.
Thrive?
Thrive. Our friends at Thrive were the ones that posted, 0 catches on 0 targets through 3 quarters. Heck of a performance for Metcalf. And I know he's going against Ramsey, but we've seen, when Dallas went against Ramsey, they weren't afraid to throw at him over and over again. It's weird that the Seahawks they need to find a groove because they have now big losses to playoff contenders in Buffalo, Arizona, and the Rams, the latter two being in their own division. They're now in a 3-way tie. And we saw last year, there's a big difference between being a division winner and a wild card in terms of your road to the playoffs and who you end up playing.
Yeah, and because of the head-to-head wins, Arizona actually sits as number 1, Rams 2, now Seattle 3. So they went from being the clear leaders, not just in the division, but in the NFC, to now being possibly the last wild card in, which, is going to be very interesting. It's going to be fun. And I only say this because it really will help improve the Browns' chances, but I really do kind of hope they end up going with adding that extra other wild card spot as well, making a 16-team playoff because, I want the Browns to make it.
Well, the way our country is going, you have to wonder if they're not going to decide to take a strategic pause from football just because all these states are locking down. I don't,
well, see, that's the interesting thing. We've talked
just
about
had a COVID situation.
They've had 2 in the past couple of days. Yeah, they had the backup right guard who they put on the COVID list, and then someone else has positive today. But that's the thing is, like, you've had really realistically, NFL has done really well with this. Like, they've actually handled it really well. So that's why I don't know if they will. What'll be interesting is they've said multiple times, and I don't know how they do this with 16 teams. That's going to be the interesting part. Is they've said they are going to go to a bubble-like atmosphere once the playoffs hit. So how that's going to work, though, especially if they go 16 teams, I don't know, because that's a lot. I mean, you're talking 8 teams from each conference. That's going to be a whole lot to try and figure out. But, again, they've made it work now not being in a bubble for the most part. We've really seen, one game got postponed or moved, right? Am I thinking of something wrong? They've moved a couple different games around in bye weeks, but it was really just the Bills game that got moved to that Tuesday night. So, I mentioned it before. I think these NFL players, because they want to get paid and they focus so much on football, they've done a good job with it. I think the way the NFL came out and said, hey, you can't take vacations now in your bye weeks. You have to stay in your home city and all that other stuff has also kind of helped eliminate that stuff. They've handled it really well. I hope that they continue to handle it the way that they have. On the Rams side here, Goff, 10 points, Akers, 3, Henderson, 10, Brown, 19, Robert Woods, 8, Cooper Kupp, 10, and Tyler Higbee, 9 points. Are you ever going to be able to figure out who we're playing on the Rams side here? For me, I'm going to say no. I'm going to stick with Woods. Woods for me is the wide receiver I like the most there. So he's going to be the wide receiver I continue to play. I don't know what to think on the Brown Henderson thing. It's just frustrating.
Well, Akers actually led them in carries, but was the least efficient running back and the only one not to get a touchdown. You thought playing Seattle, who has had no pass defense, that Woods and Kupp should be a great play because they had both gone off and seemed to be getting in a groove the week prior. And then it's Josh Reynolds and Tyler Higbee. So, I mean, you play them all. Sometimes you're going to get a wide receiver, a running back 1 game. Sometimes you're going to get a wide receiver, a running back 2 games. Sometimes you're going to get a wide receiver, a running back 3 game. And Tyler Higbee, just say a prayer.
Yeah. I was kind of surprised he did as well as he did yesterday. We've not seen that since, I think, week 1. So it was, I guess, good to see him get involved. Saints 49ers. Saints won this one 27-13 on the 49er side. Mullins 10 points, McKinnon 5, Brandon Ayuk 19, Jordan Reed 11. Hasty got injured in this one, but Coleman and Mostert could be close to a return. For the time being, is there anyone you feel safe playing outside of Rookie of the Year candidate Brandon Ayuk?
Nope, I think he's the most consistent. Jordan Reed looks like he might be establishing himself as the better of the tight end plays. But even then, the 49ers are just beat up. I think it's a lost season for them.
Yep, I am with you on that. I love Ayuk. Been talking about him for the past couple of weeks, saying he's the only guy that I would trust, especially with the way this backfield has been as messed up as it has been. On the Saints side, Breeze 6 points due to injury here. Winston comes in, gets 2 points. Kamara 34. Michael Thomas 4 points in this one. Breeze got hurt. What is your concern level here with him? And then what are you doing with Michael Thomas?
Did you see the report on Breeze now that's come out?
He
broke 3 ribs in week
and
9 and broke 2 ribs on the other side yesterday.
Yeah, and has the collapsed lung. Yeah,
I think it's unconscionable for a 41-year-old guy that you need in the playoffs for him to play next week. So now the question to me is whether we see a lot of Jameis Winston, we see some Taysom Hill, do we see a combination of the two? What would scare me too is it didn't look like Jameis Winston had any chemistry with Michael Thomas.
Yeah.
Real bummer.
I actually think it could be a good thing for Michael Thomas. I don't know how much, but I kind of feel like with Winston out there, we know he'll force the ball to players. But how much will they actually throw the ball? I saw a lot of people saying, hey, with Winston out there, Thomas will be good again. I don't see Sean Payton coming out there in the Bruce Arians time like, you know what, that's cool. Let's just throw it 50 times. They're going to run the ball because they have Kamara. There's still going to be checkdowns to Kamara. So I think it could be a good thing for Michael Thomas, but I'm not expecting him to go back up to getting like those 15 targets a game we saw him getting last year. It's like we talked about earlier. We mentioned a bunch of these guys in the kind of weird year that it's been. At this point, Michael Thomas is on my bench until he proves he's worth starting. I just can't continue to throw him out there for 5 points a game. You just can't.
And what's the upper end hope that he gives you like a middle tier wide receiver 2 number? We have not. His best game in the 3 that he's played this season was 5 catches for 51 yards.
Yep, that was last week.
Yeah, yesterday was his second best game. His opening day game wasn't very good either. So it's been brutal.
Yeah. Steelers, Bengals. Pittsburgh pulls off the win to stay undefeated, 36-10. Burrow, 12 points. Giovanni freaking Bernard, 8 points. T. Higgins, 22. Tyler Boyd, 10. Vanilla day here for Burrow and the Bengals. What are your thoughts on them moving forward? T. Higgins has been phenomenal. I think that's my biggest takeaway.
Boyd had been really good and really solid prior to. I mean, he wasn't terrible yesterday. I guess just
made a phenomenal catch on the sideline too. I don't know if you saw that.
Their team isn't terrible, but they're not great. And I think unfortunately you don't know exactly what to expect from them week to week. You know, it seemed like they were trying to get AJ Green involved yesterday. He was out there for a ton of snaps, only had 5 targets, caught nothing. Steelers have a good defense. I'm with you that Gio, that was kind of a bummer because he had seemed pretty rock solid coming in there, coming back to earth a little bit what we've seen with Mike Davis in some of these games where he explodes and it's almost like you're not really missing Christian McCaffrey, and then you roll into a week where it just gets you 8 or 9 points. Yesterday I felt like that was a lot of, you either got 30 points or you got 8 points. That was it.
Yeah, and I want to give a shout out here to at Bryce T _10 on Twitter. I'm sure Matt you get some as well. I get some start sit questions from time to time here on Twitter, and he reached out to me yesterday and asked if he should start Giovanni Bernard or T. Higgins. I told him to go Bernard because I thought Bernard was going to have a huge game. That obviously did not work out, and I felt bad. We all know there are people that take that very badly. He was really cool about it. I appreciate it. He reached out to me, and I actually reached out to him first, like, dude, I'm so sorry. I was like, I really thought this was going to be a smash game for Bernard. Higgins is balling, and his response was, dude, you didn't hit submit on my lineup. I did. And he was like, I appreciate your help anyways. Like, thank you for being polite and nice about it, because some people blow up your DMs with some of just like the nastiest shit you've seen in your life, threatening wives, kids, and all this stuff over fantasy football. And I mean, I get it. I'm a very competitive person as well, but I just wanted to shout you out if you're watching. I appreciate the kind back and forth, and I still feel bad for leading you down the Giovanni Bernard train. If it makes you feel better, I did the same thing, and I'm probably going to call it. At least he did win his matchup, where I am likely going to lose by 6 points.
So I was going to say too, they just flashed the NFC if the playoffs started today standings.
Yeah,
slight correction: the Packers are the number 1 seed.
Are they? Oh, okay, gotcha. I did not know
If
that.
they started today, and Seattle went from, I think they were number 1 after last week, they would be the 7th seed if the playoffs started today. So that's a precipitous. They would be at the Saints.
Yeah. So Pittsburgh side here, Ben, 29 points. James Conner, same thing as Bernard, extremely disappointing. Just 6 points in this one. The wide receiver 1, Deontay Johnson, 23 points. Juju, 22. Chase Claypool, 21. Do the Steelers have the best offense in the NFL right now?
Yes, and unfortunately, with an embarrassment of riches, sometimes you're going to get a good game from Connor. Sometimes you're going to get a good game from Ebron. Sometimes you're not. Yesterday, it was all 3 receivers. I think we had thought with Ben being off practice and having injured both of his knees, that it would be more of a run-heavy game, and he was like, hold my beer. I'm just going to chuck it out there. All 3 of those receivers got touchdowns. Had to make you feel good. That trade looking good yesterday. Hey, Deontay Johnson, 23. Damian Harris looked good too, even though he didn't get a touchdown. He ran pretty hard. So
yeah,
I thought that was your day yesterday.
Yeah, unfortunately, I didn't play Harris as we talked about off air, so that kind of hurt. But yeah, Deontay Johnson, like I said, for me, he's the one in this offense, and I think he continues to prove it. He is the one outside of when you just mentioned, you're going to get those big games from Connor. We saw it again yesterday. He gets so many targets, and he is the one for Big Ben that he looks to on every single play. I think Deontay Johnson is the one, if he stays healthy, I feel safe playing every single week. Like, I do think you're going to see those games. Juju has been phenomenal the past couple weeks as well. He's really come on. But I kind of feel like you'll see Juju and Claypool waning a little bit more here and there, where for me, Deontay is the one. But yeah, it definitely feels good having given up not only just the one, but Preston Williams, who then ends up getting hurt the next week, because I traded him right the week before he went off for that massive game where he got like the 26 points or whatever, multiple touchdowns. It's like, oh, and Deontay Johnson got hurt on the first play, and I was like, it's 2020 for me right there. But yeah, they've looked amazing. And speaking of Damian Harris, him and the Patriots won last night against Baltimore. Thank you, New England. Never thought I'd say that, but I appreciate you. 23-17. We'll start with New England side here. Cam, 16 points. Harris, 12. Burkhead, 22. And Jacoby Myers, 15. The Patriots seem to be finding their groove with the Cam, Harris, Burkhead-led backfield here. Burkhead has taken over the James White role, it seems. What happens with this backfield and Michelle once he comes back?
I bet you Michelle ends up being a little bit of the odd man out. It's obviously they don't have a huge allegiance to what you've done or the role you've had before. Otherwise, it's certainly fundamentally to me, watching the game and watching the stats, feels like Burkhead has become White and White has become Burkhead. And I'm not 100% sure why. Maybe Cam feels better with Burkhead. We haven't heard much talked about it, but maybe James White's still struggling a little bit with what's happened. Obviously, if something happened to my parents, I think I would take more than a couple weeks to get over it.
Yeah.
That could be totally understandable. But their offense, they seem to have found a groove using Harris and Burkhead and Jacoby Myers. I think Myers was the only wide receiver that even had a fantasy point last time.
Yeah, well, that's what we talked about, right? I mean, we talked about it last week. Grab him off your waiver wires if you can, because he's going to be the guy. Him and Cam clearly have that chemistry, and we've seen that even in Carolina. When Cam has that chemistry with that one person, whether it was Greg Olsen or the years Devin Funchess was actually a thing, or Kelvin Benjamin even, like, he makes them extremely fantasy viable, and I would argue Jacoby Myers is probably better than Funchess and Kelvin Benjamin, so it'll be fun to watch him go forward. Yeah, Michelle worries me a little bit just because it's Bill Belichick. And we're going to see that game where it clearly looks like it should be a Harris Burkhead type game. Michelle comes in, gets you 3 touchdowns and 120 yards rushing, and Harris does nothing the entire game. And it's week 14 of your fantasy playoffs, and you're flipping shit because you just lost. So I'm with you. I think Harris and Burkhead have played the best. I can't say anything bad about White because I'm with you. The fact that he's even playing, I don't understand. I could not fathom losing both. Well, I guess technically both did not pass, but I think it was his father that passed away in the accident. His
father passed away, yeah.
Losing your father and your mother being in critical condition, I can promise you if that happened to me, I would not even be doing this podcast every day, and it's pretty easy to just sit here and talk football. So I have to give nothing but props to him to be able to do that. And so what he does on the football field, I think, is minuscule compared to what he's dealing with, as you just mentioned. So I'm not worried about White moving forward. And I think the fact that the way that the entire New England organization talks about him, I think clearly echoes exactly what we're saying as well. So much props to him for being able to just even be able to be out there on the field and do what he's doing. But we'll see with Michelle. I'd like to say that it'll be Harrison and Burkhead moving forward, but you never know, unfortunately, with New England. On Baltimore's side here, Lamar Jackson, 21 points, Gus Edwards, 8, Mark Ingram, 4, Dobbins, 2, Snead, 23, and Mark Andrews, 13. Ingram came back in, and the running game was a mess. What do the Ravens need to do to fix this, or can it be fixed?
I'm starting to think their offense can't really be fixed for this year. They seem completely unable to get Hollywood Brown involved, or as we call him, Encino Brown now. Yeah. Salt Lake City Brown. Willie Snead is fine and had a couple of touchdowns. Mark Andrews has not even consistently. They lost Boyle. He's out for the year now, so I wonder if that'll get more uptick for Andrews, although they've had to use tight ends to block. I'm not going to say Lamar is bad, but he has not looked as dynamic in any way. It was not a great weather game last night, but I feel like he was overcoming just everything and looked unstoppable last year. We haven't seen unstoppable Lamar Jackson to me at any point this season. And I don't know. They're not a bad team, but they're not incredibly impressive. And from a fantasy standpoint, it's just a brutal play. We had thought Ingram was going to be out again, which I think would have maybe helped. But you see Ingram playing and Gus Edwards still getting everything. It seemed like Ingram playing took touches away from Dobbins, who, if you would have asked me beforehand, seemed like he has the potential to have the kind of big play potential as the guy that you should be getting more touch. So Dobbins and Brown as a receiver seem like kind of those guys can make those big splash plays. And instead of trying to get them more involved, it feels like they're getting less involved. Is that intentional? I don't know. Do they not know how to fix it? I'm guessing that's part of it. They haven't looked right all year. They didn't look great in that last playoff game we saw when Tennessee kind of went in and stuck it to them. And it feels like they have some hangover from that.
I'm going to go back to what I said in the offseason, where I won't say who, but I was unfairly criticized, I think, on my takes on Lamar Jackson by some people. I said it then. Defenses, I think, have now had a chance to figure this offense out. It's not that hard. If you can find a defender to stay home on Lamar and stop him from running, he cannot beat you with his arm. And if you can stop this offensive game from running, they cannot beat you. That's just the end of it, in my opinion. Mark Ingram has not looked the same. I'm with you. Why you don't get Dobbins the ball more, I have no idea. He's looked by far the best running back on that team. I don't know if it can be fixed. I saw the interview. I watched the whole thing because I wasn't sure if some of it got taken out of context. And I don't think Lamar was trying to start any kind of war inside his locker room. But he called out that defenses already know the plays that they're running. They're calling out the plays right before they run them at times on the field, which again goes back to what I said earlier in the season, what I thought was going to happen. When defenses study this team, they're going to learn out how to stop them. And I think that's what's going on right now. Lamar is so talented that he's going to be able to find ways to keep Baltimore in it. but I honestly don't think they can be fixed. I said it earlier, and I'm going to stick with it. It is as bad as I think Indy and Tennessee kind of look.
So,
Baltimore is the worst 6-3 team to me right now. I do not think that they're a good team at all.
yeah, I mean, it's just very strange, kind of what's going. But people were critical. You had Lamar as QB5 for this year. I think right now, if you said he could get to QB5, people would take that in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I think he's QB12.
Yeah, he's tracking at the low end. He has not been bad. Just not seeing those spectacular performances, and what we've seen with guys like Kyler Murray and Josh Allen and Russell Wilson and Mahomes, the way they've kind of stepped up and elevated their game. Justin Herbert, Deshaun Watson. I mean, he's sliding further back. I think he'll still finish as QB1, but he's definitely going to be in the bottom half, and you're going to be closer than any of us were.
Yeah, let's see here. So I was trying to pull it up really quick. So he is currently sitting as QB 11 right now. 11. 5 points ahead of Bridgewater at 12. I did not expect to see Bridgewater. Oh, whoops. That's all players. I'm sorry. That's not correct. Give me a second. Let me go to QBs now.
Well, QBs are probably the top
12. He's 9.
So
So he's 9 overall right now. Like I said, Bridgewater, Tannehill, Wentz, all right behind him. My guy, Justin Herbert, sitting at 7. Let's fucking go. I love it. You love to see it. You just love to see it. Yeah. Like I said, again, me saying that is not like Lamar Jackson is not a good quarterback. He's an elite player in the NFL. I'm not taking that away from him, but he still, in my opinion, has not proved that he is a great passer of the ball. And that's always been my take, is if you can stop them running the ball, I don't think he can beat you passing. We've seen him do it in one game, which was New England last year. That's it.
Well, and with that cluster of teams in the AFC right now, all in that range, this is the kind of okay but not good or great season where you could end up, it's very possible the way it's tracking, you have a 10-win team that doesn't make even a 7-team playoff field in the AFC.
Yeah.
And Baltimore, they didn't. If they have a stumble against Cleveland and a couple of other stumbles down the stretch, they could easily find themselves kind of in that range where you're on the bubble of not making it.
Let's see here. I was going to pull up their schedule really quick and see what they've got left. I know they play Pittsburgh one more time. And I know they've got they've got a get-right game here in a minute. So they get Titans next week, which is going to be a massive game with both of them sitting at 6-3. Neither one being because the Colts technically now lead the division with beating them. So that's a wild card matchup right there. Then they get the Steelers. Then they get the Cowboys. So that's a get-right game for them. Then they get Jacksonville, another get-right game. Then you get, the Baltimore is going to make the playoffs, folks. I'll just put it to you that way. Then they get Cleveland. Then they get the Giants and the Bengals. So they've got like 5 winnable games there at the end in Dallas, Jacksonville, Giants, Bengals.
So I will just point out that I think all of us thought that they were going to cruise to an easy win against the Patriots. And that didn't happen.
I don't know if I thought easy win, but I did think they were going to win, yes. I still believe in Bill's defense to slow them down a little bit, but I did not expect them to lose. I did expect Baltimore to win. I picked them to win. So, yeah, I say that in the fact that I don't expect Jacksonville to put up a fight. Or, I don't expect them to win the game. I do expect Baltimore to win that game. Granted, Dallas gave Pittsburgh all it was worth, so maybe they do something, but I would expect Baltimore wins the
next
game.
2 games, no lock, you beat Tennessee. They didn't even look like they were on the same field when they played Pittsburgh. If you go
Thursday night game too, that is wait. That's
Thanksgiving night. It's the primetime game on Thanksgiving.
I love it. That is even better. I was hoping for some good Thanksgiving games.
Yeah, it's the primetime game on Thanksgiving.
So I don't look more than like 2 days out, so I don't know. I don't know that.
You could potentially be rolling, let's say they rolled into Dallas 6-5. Yeah, maybe you win against Dallas, maybe you win against Jacksonville. You'd still be 8-5. They dropped that Cleveland game. That's where I'm talking about. I think the way we're tracking, we may well end up with a 10-6 team that doesn't make the playoffs. So they could still get to 10 wins, even with the games that you think they should win. And I think we both think they should win. I would say a game with the Browns is a coin flip. The game with the Titans is a
I
coin
agree.
flip. The game with the Steelers is a coin flip. They probably need to win at least one, if not two of those games to have a good standing. And that becomes a tall order. And you have no room anymore to slip. We talked about the Giants are coming on. Maybe the Giants are a little frisky there because they can see the NFC East in their sights and they clip you. Division games are always hard. Cincinnati is going to be trying its hardest to try to win. We've seen them have some good performances. So the problem, it seems, and what it feels like at least, is the way this passing game is tracking. If you get a lead on Baltimore, they have a problem.
Yeah. Because
they're not probably the team that's going to come out there and throw for 350 yards and 4 touchdowns to go back into it. And that's got to be the sort of troubling part.
Well, see, and this is what we've got to spend just an episode. I know people probably don't like to hear the NFL talk as much. They're here for fantasy, but we've got to spend an episode looking at this stuff because that's the thing. Like, I honestly think it comes down right now to 4 teams competing for those last 2 spots, and it's Cleveland, Baltimore, Tennessee, and Oakland, Las Vegas. Las Vegas already has the win over the Browns. Here's the problem. The Browns have a couple easy games coming up, right? They do get the Giants, which, again, we just talked about, could end up winning that. I could see the Giants beating the Browns. I wouldn't be surprised if they did it. They get the Jets, which you would think is going to be an easy win. They get the Jaguars, and they get the Eagles, which Eagles, again, could be a win. But they get the Titans, Ravens, and Steelers also in that run as well. If you beat Baltimore, great. But then my fear, you lose to Tennessee, which is a very losable game. They're on the road in Tennessee. We saw Tennessee beat the crap out of them last year. If they lose that game, I think my biggest fear is it comes down to week 17, where the Browns play the Steelers and Baltimore gets Cincinnati. And I don't know if Cincinnati has that ability to get that big upset like they did a couple years ago to get Buffalo into the playoffs. So that's my biggest fear. If it comes down to that, I'm like, we're fucked. We're fucked, ladies and gentlemen. Unless Big Ben is like, you know what? We've only lost 1 game. We're in the playoffs as the number 1 seed. We're going to throw Mason Rudolph out there. And, hey, then maybe the Browns have a chance. But
maybe they'll just throw actual Rudolph out there. They'll just get a red-nosed reindeer to take the snaps because it might be better.
It might be. Hey, never mind. I was going to make a bad Myles Garrett joke. All right, so that'll do it for us today. We will be back tomorrow recapping the Vikings-Bear game in hopes that Allen Robinson decides he doesn't want to get hurt anymore because they've got a bye week next week, and he's just going to sit this one out after 1 catch for 3 yards. Thanks, Allen. I appreciate it. I know you're watching right now. I really appreciate you not going off tonight. And then we'll talk waiver wire targets as well. We've mentioned some today, but we'll go in more in depth about waiver wire targets tomorrow. Enjoy the game. Hopefully you guys win your matchups, and we'll see you guys again.